Thank you very much, Lynn. I think my presentation is in the context of the panel on strategy for mobile broadband deployment. AFRINIC is a number registry in charge of mainly allocating number resources to operators. And what we really care about is infrastructure and how we can have sustainable infrastructure to support broadband deployment, but also to make broadband deployment useful for people. If we look at a few data, specifically in our region, more than 17% of browsing today happen over mobile phone. And this represents more than 160% growth over the past 2 years. More will be seeing the price of smartphone and the evolution of mobile infrastructure in our region toward data, more this figure will grow significantly. But there is one specific thing that we see from our perspective as a registry is that data business is something that mobile operators are kind of discovering, getting into, because they are gradually seeing their voice volume going down or data volume catching up with their voice volume. So they are getting into this new business environment. They are investing a lot of money in infrastructure. But our question, and what I would like to see discussed today, is how is the data, the voice model, connecting with the data model in terms of interconnection? How are we making sure in our infrastructure that we interconnect properly, we have proper peering agreement, so that we consolidate local traffic as much as possible, because that's how the internet has been designed. The internet has been designed in allowing data traffic to be interconnect, to be kept local, so to address the affordability issue. That is something that is not systematically taken into account in today's architecture of the mobile broadband. It is expected that by 2014, mobile browsing will take over desktop browsing. That means the majority of internet users in a region like Africa specifically will be using mobile. The costs of accessing the internet won't be anymore the cost of getting a DSL line, but the cost of using data over mobile. How are we working to make data over mobile devices as affordable as possible to allow the next generation of internet users to have easy access to the service? The other aspect which is very important when we are talking about mobile broadband strategy is number resources, what we do. The internet that we have known so far has been deployed around IPv4, which is the original version of the protocol that supports the internet. But if we look at the number today, IPv4, the whole addressability that we have in IPv4 will not allow us even to address our today's need. How are we making sure that when allowing more people to connect to the internet, we have those critical identifiers that can allow them to connect? We talk a lot about spectrum when we talk about telecommunication infrastructure, and specifically for mobile operators. When we talk about spectrum, people know what we are talking about. But when we talk about IP address, very little know how strategic IP address is in their long-term development. How are we, when deploying our mobile broadband infrastructure, taking into consideration the identification of people who will connect through IP addresses? how much our infrastructure are IPv6 ready, not to create an isolated island that will run over a protocol that is not used anymore, which is IPv4. We have also seen less attention being given to the transition to IPv6 for broadband infrastructure, specifically in developing countries. We have the opportunity in this region, and specifically developing region, to use the transition to IPv6 or to use IPv6 as an opportunity to explore new service, an opportunity to change the way the internet has been working so far. It is important for us as a registry to make sure that when we are talking about mobile broadband, we ensure that it allows people to be connected and be able to use the point-to-point philosophy behind the internet. The last point I will address, I have very little time, that's why I didn't have a slide, in fact, is the content. Internet capacity around Africa has moved from 1.5 terabytes to more than 30 terabytes over the past 3 years. We are deploying more and more fiber inland. Mobile broadband is coming to completely change the environment. But for what? Are we developing all those infrastructure to be consumer of the internet or to be actors and service producers? Because that's where the business is. The business is not only on infrastructure, but how can we create content and service that people who will be connected to that infrastructure that we are building can use in their day-to-day life? How the broadband can help enhance the socio-economical life of people. That is also a very fundamental aspect, because it's good to deploy infrastructure, it's good to have broadband, but if we are using that broadband to only consume content, service, and information that is not related to our day-to-day life or our host elsewhere, then we will have invest not for ourselves, but for others. So how can we encourage the content aspect, service aspect over that broadband is key. And mobile operators have a critical role to play in that as well, because if you look at the previous model of network operators, they run access, but they also run web service which supports content. How can this be transitioned to mobile operator? Which role mobile operators are taking to encourage local content, to encourage local service, to encourage development of application that can enhance people's day-to-day life? Those are critical questions which we have to take into consideration when talking about our long-term strategy for mobile broadband. So thank you, and I think we will have time during the panel to discuss those matters. Thank you.